year is 2330, and I've just been hired as a Dusty, basically a run-of-the-mill contract miner working with Argos extractors on planet Vectera. The story I have to share with you all started here, and led me on a huge adventure across the stars, leading to some pretty awe-inspiring knowledge and experiences at the end. Please sit back, grab yourself a Chunks apple and your favorite drink pack, and I'll walk you through my exploits in a story I'm lovingly calling Star Trek. Star Wars? Star-Lord? Starsky and Hutch? Starship Troopers? Stardew Valley? Starbucks? Starfield. Yeah, that'll do. My supervisor Lynn led me down into the mine where they gave me a cutter tool and I got to work. Eventually, I was called over to a huge digger and Lynn's right-hand man, Heller, cutting through the cave wall. Heller reported there were odd gravity readings coming through the wall, but Lynn seemed to expect that. It seems that's what we're all here to find. I head into the cave and find a strange object stuck in the rock. I loosen it with the cutter and grab it, and as soon as I touch it, a vision fills my mind. I can see what looks like flashes of stars in space, as well as beautiful musical sounds. As the vision fades away, I realize I'm waking up with Lynn and Heller looking over me. Seems I passed out when I touched the object. My memories are a bit fuzzy here, so they hand me a tablet to confirm who I am, and who I think I am. I'm this guy. Moving on, I head outside with Lynn and Heller to meet the person that hired us for this job. His ship lands in front of us and I meet Barrett. He seems to know about my vision from touching the artifact we found, but as we're talking about it, some space pirates land and we're tasked with defending the outpost. They followed Barrett down here, it seems. We wiped them up handily and I return to chatting with Barrett. It seems he's a member of a group called Constellation that investigates and explores the settled systems looking for answers to the unknown. It seems they've already found a couple of these artifacts and Barrett also had the same vision. He offers to stay at the mine to help out in case the pirates return and offers me use of his ship, which belongs to Constellation, to fly to New Atlantis and deliver the artifact I found to the team at the Constellation Lodge there. He also hands me a watch device that allows me to scan planets, track vital signs, and even tell what time it is. So I hop on board with his robot assistant named Vasco and we take off. In orbit around Vectera, I'm attacked by more of these Crimson Fleet pirates, but we make short order of them and their base on the planet Crete nearby, and make our way to planet Jameson and the city of New Atlantis. New Atlantis is absolutely massive, let me tell ya. The Constellation Lodge is located in the Mast District, which is the area right under the massive mast building that looks like a ship's mast, which is the headquarters of MAST, which stands for Military Administration and Science Triumvirate. Have I said MAST enough yet? The lodge, by comparison, is a pretty unassuming building on the edge of the district. I head inside and Vasco introduces me to the leader, a woman named Sarah Morgan. I explain who I am and what happened that brought me here with the artifact instead of Barrett. They ask me to put the artifact on the display in the middle of the room, so I do, and they start floating and spinning around. Definitely not normal. The Constellation crew has a brief discussion about what these weird, clearly not human-made things are, and Sarah asks me if I'd like to join and continue on the hunt for more artifacts. I'm obviously down with this and take her up on the offer. Seems Sarah already has a tip on one of the artifacts, so we team up and take off to the settlement of Cydonia on Mars. Her contact's name is Moara, and we try to suss his whereabouts out from the local bartender, who let slip, after some coaxing, that he was overheard heading to an outpost on Venus. What follows was a bit of cat and mouse as we hopped to a couple different locations on his trail, taking out space pirates along the way, but we eventually find his ship floating in orbit above Neptune, taken over by more pirates. Clearing that out, we find Moara still alive, and he's been using the artifact as a hood ornament. Turns out saving his life was enough for him to agree to hand it over though. One more artifact down, and who knows how many to go. No visions when I touch this one though, weird. As Sarah and I return to the lodge to deliver this artifact, she takes the opportunity to formally welcome me into Constellation. Seems I'm doing good work, and they'd be happy to have me join. At this point I'm given a trio of missions to take care of. Man, they really run the new guy through his paces here. First up, Sarah wants me to find out what happened to Barrett and bring him home. I head back to Vectera only to find that the mine is abandoned after the pirate attack from before. Lynn, however, is still here, but she informs me that the pirates came back while I was gone and took both Barrett and Heller hostage. Typical. Lynn joins my crew as I follow more breadcrumbs around the galaxy until I find Heller wounded under a crashed ship. It seems that he and Barrett staged an escape attempt, and the pilot of the pirate shuttle was shot, so the ship crashed. Heller was left to die, but Barrett was taken away again on another ship. Typical! Heller joins the crew now as I jump to the planet Bissell, where further clues have led me. I fight through an outpost here, through turrets and mines and spacers, fearing the worst has happened to Barrett. I reach the final door in the depths of the outpost where he is no doubt being held. I open the door and find... Barrett's chilling with his captors, just shooting the shit. What the hell? Seems he's made friends with this Matsura the Grim fellow. Lovely. Sarah mentions that this apparently isn't the first time that this has happened with Barrett. Interesting dude. We say our pleasantries to the pirates and head back to the lodge together. Next up is a mission with one of the Constellation team I haven't met yet, a guy named Sam Coe. He's from the Freestar Collective, which is basically to the United Colonies what America was to the British, for those versed in ancient times old Earth history. It's 2330, remember? They wanted their own part of space to govern on their own. And it turns out that Sam's ancestor Solomon Coe is one of, if not the founder of the collective. He's here in Constellation with his daughter Cora, doing the best his single dad self can do, which is mainly being really overprotective of his daughter. Anyway, he knows of some old maps that have been passed down through his family that he thinks might lead to a cave with an artifact. Something about how the area around this cave seems to repel the carnivorous and aggressive creatures that inhabit the Freestar Collective capital world, Aquila. So we head there together along with Cora, who travels anywhere Sam does, to find this cave. Upon arrival, it seems there's a bank robbery in progress. The Shaw Gang is in town, and they've got hostages. The local marshal, Daniel, great name, we're best friends already, asks me if I can provide hostage negotiation services. And even though I've never done anything like that before in my life, I figure a scenario like this can't be that hard, so I accept. Sure enough, I'm able to quickly convince the entire Shaw Gang to completely give up and turn themselves in, no sweat. With the bank now cleared out, Sam takes me to his safety deposit box where the map is held, but he finds a note instead from his father, who has taken the map, and apparently they don't really see eye to eye. He reluctantly takes me over to his family home where we try to get the map. There's an awkward, uncomfortable greeting and Sam gets frustrated and backs off. But I'm not afraid. Freshly full of persuasion confidence from my work at the bank moments ago, I head upstairs and deftly convince old man Jacob Coe to drop his squabbles for a change and just hand the map over, which he does. No sweat. With the map in hand, we leave Cora with her grandfather and make for the cave. Turns out, it's now a base for our good old friends the Shaw Gang. I'm more than happy to give them another talking to, but this time the mouth I use is a gun. And they still listened really well, except with a bit more bleeding. The cave isn't very deep, and sure enough we find an artifact inside. Second I grab this one out of the rock, I have another vision with the stars and music. Still no idea what I'm seeing, but at least I didn't pass out cold this time. On our way back out, more Shaw Gang have gathered, and even Shaw herself. She's none too impressed with how many of her gang I've killed and wants me to pay for it. But we both know exactly how I deal with Shaw Gang types. No sweat! I was able to convince her that I wasn't so bad after all, and she just let me and Sam go. Why didn't I become a negotiator sooner? Sam and I take the artifact back to the lodge and I rejoin with Sarah for the next mission, which let me tell you is where the crazy outer space shitometer really cranks it up. It seems Constellation has been tracking these artifacts based on the unique gravity signatures they give off, and they even have their own space station in orbit above Jemison called the Eye that they use to search the galaxy for them. There's a guy up there named Vladimir Saul, who is a badass with biceps. He monitors the Eye and relays suspected artifact locations to the team that collects them, but it seems one of the other members of Constellation team hasn't reported in, Andreja. Vladimir gives me a couple locations she was scheduled to look at recently to try and track her down. Procyon 3 and Piazzi 4C. I went for Procyon 3 first, and the abandoned mine on the surface. After some well-earned looting time, I headed into the mine, and the first thing I hear is nearby murder. It looks like I found Andreja first try, and she's doing just fine. She just has this lone wolf thing going and forgets to report in apparently. The rest of the errand is pretty uneventful. Clear some pirates and mercenaries out of the way, find the deepest cave, and grab the artifact out of the rock. Rinse and repeat on Piazzi, and we're all back at the lodge in time for dinner. After adding these two artifacts to the rest, Vladimir says that with their combined signals, he's now able to improve the detection capabilities of the eye, and he's found another site that's got similar signals to the artifacts, but also slightly different, and I should go check it out. I also chat with Barrett, who tells me that he suspects that the first person that touches an artifact is the one that gets the vision from it, which explains why it happens when I pull them out of the rock, but it didn't happen on the artifact that I got back from Moara. At this point, I head out to track down the anomaly. Once I land, the scanner on my watch starts going on the fritz, but only when looking in a certain direction. Vladimir said this might happen when looking in the direction of the anomaly, so at least it still gives me a direction to head. On the horizon, I slowly begin to see a massive structure. I approach what I suspect is the passage to the door to get in, and it becomes pretty clear with all the gravity-defying rocks and the automated sliding rock door that this place also probably isn't human-made. I head inside to find a small, domed room with a ring in the middle. As soon as I get inside, the rings in the middle begin to float and spin, and all the gravity turns off, so that's helpful. In the air around the rings, I see gathering of lights that look like clusters of stars. With nothing else obvious to be done, I float up and try to grab them. The moment I make contact, I hear a sound very similar to the one I hear when I pick up the artifacts, and the circles spin faster. Seems like that did something, so why not keep doing it? I grab a bunch more, and eventually there's a burst of light, and the rings in the middle begin to slow down and form what looks like a portal. Now, because I'm stupid and have no sense of self-preservation, with no knowledge about what this thing is, I figure now's the best time to fly directly into it. Suddenly, I'm frozen in place, and the stars flickering around the room begin to rush directly at me, as I'm overcome by a bright flash. I see another vision, but this time it shows me some sort of pattern or something in the stars, and suddenly I'm regaining consciousness back outside the structure. Andreja is waiting out there, staring at me, clearly not knowing what to say. I also feel strangely powerful, so I point my hand at the ice ahead, focus in my mind, and all of a sudden everything on the ground in front of me begins defying gravity. Cool, so no harm done then. Probably a good time to go back to the lodge and make sure this nifty trick didn't come along with a not so nifty brain tumor or something. Back to Constellation we go and get ourselves checked out. Seems like everything looks alright. Apparently I can just temporarily manipulate gravity in localized areas now. The team asks to see my ability, so I oblige them, and they all think it's cool, so that's pretty swell. Other than that, Sarah mentions that another of the Constellation's members, Walter Stroud, might have a lead on another artifact piece. Walter is an interesting sort. He's apparently a founding member of a very new but very lucrative spaceship manufacturer known as Stroud Eklund. He's basically rolling in cash, and Constellation is how he spends his spare time and money while his company just rakes it in. He has a contact that set up a meeting with some guy that is in possession of a stolen artifact, and we're both going to a meeting in the lawless city of Neon to buy it from him. Looks like Sarah and Walter are going to be my chums on this one, so off to Neon we go. Once we get there, we make a quick pit stop at the Stroud Eklund headquarters where we meet Walter's wife, Issa, the Eklund of Stroud Eklund. She'll be giving us intel support while we're at the purchase meeting apparently. Rich people have too much time on their hands it seems. I get sent out to case out a few things before the meeting, checking in on the security system in the Astral Lounge where the sale will take place, as well as looking into the background of the seller. With everything in place, Walter and I head into the meeting. Based on what I've learned, this seller stole the artifact in order to get money to pay back some debts he's owing, so he really needs the sale. The guy tries holding us to double the arranged amount, but as with the Shaw gang, I convince him otherwise. The sale goes through and Walter and I make our way out of the club, but we're stopped at the entrance by some thugs sent by Slayton Aerospace. Apparently the artifact was stolen from their CEO, Nicolaus Slayton, and he wants it back. He's put a bounty on us and put my ship on lockdown. Seems we need to square things away with him before we can leave. Luckily, Slayton Aerospace headquarters is also in Neon, so we head straight over and hop in the elevator to head up to chat. But the elevator stops halfway, like bad times in a Bond film, as Nicolaus's voice comes over the intercom telling us we're deep in the shitters. Suddenly, his voice cuts off and is replaced by Issa Eklund. Apparently, she's paid off a Slayton security officer and has hacked into the security system. She opens the roof hatch of the elevator for us and guides us through the building to the roof to sneak into Slayton's office to confront him. Upon entering his office, Slayton talks to us, and we try to convince him to just let the artifact go. It's starting to sound a bit cliche here, but I obviously talk circles around him. Walter, however, for some stupid reason, agrees to make some sort of business deal with him. "Shut up, Walter! I could have just gotten it all for free!" And then Slayton tells us that he has the guy that stole it from him in his office. We get to decide what to do with him. Walter wants us to let him go, Sarah wants us to have him arrested, and the third option is point-blank murder. I find Sarah hot, and so to impress her, I arrest the guy. Yeah, I'm a simple man with simple needs. The lock on our ship is cleared, as is the bounty, and we're cleared to go. We take off from Neon, and just as I'm about to spool up the jump drive to head back to Jemison, this strange ship jumps in and hails us, overriding our comms. They identify themselves as Helix, and warn us that we don't have any right to the artifact we're carrying, and are giving us one chance to turn it over to them, or they'll send their people after us. We of course deny it, and ask them to identify who their people are. They call themselves the Starborn, and they're getting impatient. We refuse to hand the artifact over one last time, and their ship moves about to attack. Walter says to fire up the grav drive and jump away, so I do quick as a flash, and we're out of there. Returning to the lodge to share our tale. Noel, one of the researchers in Constellation, suggests we hold a lodge meeting to discuss the origins of these Starborn and how to continue. Basically, half the group thinks that they're some advanced alien race, and the rest think that they're humans that may have advanced separately beyond the confines and technology of the settled systems and have returned now that we're grabbing the artifacts for ourselves. Regardless, we vote to ignore the Starborn warning and continue our search. I add the new artifact to the display, and Vladimir pulls me aside with a couple more artifact locations. So I head out with Sarah for a few quick galactic jaunts and find the artifacts fairly quickly in a couple nondescript moon caves. The first one goes off without a hitch, but as we reach the cavern with the second artifact, a Starborn materializes in front of us, tells us the artifacts are theirs, and attempts to kill us. But, luckily, it turns out they're just as deadable as the pirates and mercs we've been shooting through, so we dead him. He fizzles out of existence, and we take the artifact and then return back to the lodge again. Apparently, the scanning technology on the Eye has reached its limits due to the old age of the equipment, so Vladimir suggests we take a group up and make some repairs and upgrades. We get up there with a crew, start fiddling with things, and of course it doesn't go to plan and some circuits get sizzled. Vladimir was able to get one further reading, and says that he knows of one more artifact I can go after while they finish repairs. It's on a ship called the Scow, in the collection of one Captain Petrov. With the location of the Scow in hand, and Sam Coe's insistence that he comes along, we leave Sarah behind to help with the repairs and jump off. Reaching the Scow and giving them a hail, Sam is able to convince them to let us on board by telling them we have some rare pieces to sell. Smooth move, Coe! My persuasion be rubbing off on ya, boy! We get on board and the place is a literal museum of rare objects. Captain Petrov is literally lounging on a sofa, covered in jewelry. Who is this guy? Apparently, we need to convince him to show us into the deepest vault, where he has the artifact stored as his prized item. With a guy like this, flattery literally gets us everywhere. Despite his qualms about the security risks, he can't help but show off, and leads us downstairs. Once we get deep into the ship and into the vault, he opens the casing around the artifact, and the mood in the air instantly changes. He knows we're here to grab the artifact, and with Sam and I stuck in a corner, I make the grab and all hell breaks loose. Every single guard on the ship is on high alert, but we have Petrov trapped in the corner, and he goes down pretty much without a fight. Not dead, no, just cowering in the corner. We tell him to get his guards to stand down, and he caves, and now all of a sudden, we have free reign of the Scow. I go looting crazy right in front of all of his crew and security, and they just stand around miserable because they can't do anything about it. I even let his wild creature collection out of their cells, and a bunch of the guards get killed by them, and they don't do anything back to me for it. Whew, fun times. There ain't nothing gonna get me down after that one. Well, one more artifact in hand to take back down to the lodge. So with Sam in tow, I head back inside and drop it on the pedestal, only to then hear Noel yell in the background. The Eye has gone dark. Nobody is responding to comms. I walk over to see what's going on, and Vlad finally crackles in on the radio. Everybody up there was attacked by a Starborn, and it sounds like they're in rough shape. Vlad says Sarah is hurt particularly bad. I need to get up there to help them, But Vlad then says the Starborn was looking for our artifacts and is heading to the lodge. I either have to help defend, or I need to go save Sarah. I simply must save the future mother of my children. Sorry, gang. I'll have to leave my best persuasion chums Sam Coe and Vasco here with you, and you guys should be good to go. Just barricade the doors behind me and I'll be back as soon as I can. Before I leave, the Starborn hijacks the comms. He states his name is the Hunter, and that our part in glimpsing the Unity is over, whatever that means, and then says he'll be here shortly and to say goodbye to my friends. Consider all of the fans comprehensively hit with shat. I wish Sam and the lodge crew good luck, and they bar the doors and I head up to the Eye. I make my rounds and it seems like I got here just in time. Barrett, Andreja, Vladimir, and my love, Sarah, have all survived, thankfully. Now to get back down to the lodge and hope that everybody down there fared alright. I take Sarah back to Constellation with me, walk through the doors, and am simply not prepared for the sight that greets us there. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed part 1 of this story. Stay tuned for the second half of the story in my next video, and drop a like, comment, and a sub if you enjoyed part 1. I'll see you all there, and until then, as always, my friends, be legendary.